right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the joint public hearing. The notice of joint public hearing, notice is given that on Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 at 7:15 p.m. in the council chambers of the municipal building for the town of Tazewell, located at 211 Central Avenue, Tazewell, Virginia. The town of Tazewell's Planning Commission and Town Council will hold a joint public hearing pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2204, Town Charter Section 3-8, and Town Code Section 23-101.2 to provide the citizens of the town an opportunity to be heard with respect to an application for a special exemption permit for property identified by template number 094 Alpha 906080007 Alpha 008 Alpha, located at 138 Carline Avenue, Tazewell, Virginia 24651, and situate in an R2 residential general zoning district. A copy of the special exemption permit application is available for review and inspection during normal business hours. 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at Town of Tazewell Municipal Building as referenced here and above. So do we have any members of the public who would like to discuss this special exemption permit? Nancy? Nobody? We're done. We're going to call to order the regular town council meeting. If you could please stand for the pledge of allegiance and invocation. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Nate, would you lead us in invocation?
Of course.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you that we have the freedom to gather and assemble. We have the freedom to speak and be together and vote together, Lord, and observe the process. We ask that you bless this meeting with peace and with good judgment. You bless us with efficient use of our time. You watch us as we travel home tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. So first on the agenda is the special presentation request. We're going to get some grant application updates from Amanda Killen. Ms. Killen?
You've changed the configuration here.
Oh yes, no more. You guys speak louder.
Yeah, where's the
microphone.
podium? Well, I guess we'll start with the sports complex grant applications. And we'll go on into the North Tazewell project status. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos that we've been producing. Todd and Susan have done such a great job going around, speaking to different community members and addressing issues and concerns. And Susan put together a very informative graphic that got a lot of great interaction on social media. We meet every Monday in this room at 9 a.m. to talk about the sports complex and strategize and give updates. So you all are welcome to attend those meetings anytime. We welcome you to be there. Welcome all ideas. So far, we have submitted a grant application and a half. So we submitted to the Economic Development Administration for the Recompete program. And that's a pilot program, it's new. The award ceiling is $20 million, aimed at economically distressed areas to fund long-term and sustainable economic development initiatives. We feel like it really aligns with our objective of advancing economic development in the region. So that timeline is looking at about 6 months for an award announcement. More excited though about the ARISE concept paper that we just submitted. Over the course of the last couple of years, Todd and I have had some really great conversations with Tamara Holmes, who is the Virginia State Coordinator for the Appalachian Regional Commission, and that is who oversees the ARISE program. You guys, we've talked about this a lot. This is a grant that has to have the multi-state facet. So we reached out to Tamara a few weeks ago when we set up a meeting. Todd and I had a very long and positive conversation with her. She was very enthusiastic about the sports complex. She is a parent. She has children who play travel sports. And the day that we met with her, in fact, she was so excited to show off her UVA Wise jersey. She offered to review our concept paper. So the process for this application, you have to submit a concept paper to the state coordinator and then submit it to ARC. So she is in her hands now. She's reviewing it, and she offered to personally give us her feedback on that concept paper. And when she comes back with those edits, we'll make those changes and get that submitted by the end of October.
Could you tell council who Tamara is, what her position is?
She is the Virginia State Coordinator for the Appalachian Regional Commission, and they oversee the ARISE grant program.
What's the ceiling on that?
$10 million, yes. Essentially, Tamara is the gatekeeper for this grant opportunity. Yeah. I know there was an email that went out earlier this week that expressed that maybe the planning district had learned that ARC would not be supportive of this project. That is absolutely not the impression that I have gotten. Todd has gotten. It was a very positive conversation. She was very supportive, and like I said, she personally offered to review our concept paper. So we do feel like if it was not a fit for that program, she would shut us down and told us not to waste our time and her time. So
Doesn't mean it'll get funded, but it does qualify.
Well, I think it's a good sign that she offered to review it before we submit it, since she is part of that agency.
she's the gatekeeper.
Right.
There's always a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And she's that one, and we're fortunate that she's a cheerleader for this, at this stage at least. Additionally, we're having ongoing engagement with stakeholders and funders, and you guys are aware we have a meeting coming up Tuesday to discuss this. Can't stress how important it is for us to be on the same page and have just a total positive front. And if you have the opportunity to speak with your delegate, your senators, your congressmen, please be a champion for this project, because without their support, I'm not sure that we can get very far. Got anything else to add, Todd, to the?
No, we actually, and you're right, Tamara Holmes has been a friend of Tazewell for a lot of projects we've done, and actually, the United States gatekeeper is Mansion, and we've also had communication there. So, not to say that that's a key to any lock, but it's absolutely a great door to be knocking on. So, we're trying, we're going to give it a good whirl. The political support is desired more than anything.
Gail Manchin is the chairperson for the Appalachian Regional Commission, so she oversees the whole program. And in fact, Tamara actually brought this up in our meeting, that was a real positive for us, because our partner in this endeavor is the city of Bluefield, because this will be an obvious benefit to the city of Bluefield. And they're on board and supportive, and we're moving forward. So let's move on to North Tazewell.
Just a question on what's the next step? What next grants are we looking at? And I don't know that I captured, like on the ARISE concept paper with Tamara, when do you expect to hear any feedback from her?
So it's usually about 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So the ARISE program is fairly new, and they are really just now getting around to making the initial award announcements from the first round of applications.
Okay.
It's due October 31st, so we'll have that concept paper in, and then about 3 to 6 months after that, we'll know if we made it through that gate. And once we've made it through phase 1, which is submitting the concept paper, then we're invited to apply
Okay.
for the rest of it. So
It's going to be real competitive. They actually dropped the guidelines, lessened the, I don't know, the level of competitiveness. They actually dropped the guidelines. So it used to be that you had to have a concept letter bounced off of both states. Now it's just an agreement of support. And that's a little political right now too. There's a lot going on across that line, both in Rutherford County and Bluefield. So even if it doesn't work out there, there's another joining county across from us, so we're going to keep beating it. I mean, when you're that passionate that a project is beneficial, I mean, it's kind of obvious when you've got every locality around you fighting for it. So it's a good project to have in Southwest Virginia, not just kind of have in every town season. So we just got to get in front of the ball.
And then the next grants that we'll be looking at, do you have those lined up, or do we know what those are at this point?
we know which private charitable organizations will be approaching and asking for support. Additionally, we hope to have conversations with the Tobacco Commission,
Okay.
and we'll be looking at some state funding next year as well. Like Todd said, previously the Arise program was very complicated, and I think they had to lower, I don't want to say lower their standards, but make it a little bit more comprehensible because no one can understand how to tie two states together. So before we were thinking we had to build something in West Virginia and something in Virginia, and that's very complicated and a super heavy lift. But now we just have to show a benefit across the state line, and there's that obvious benefit there.
Everybody, I mean, every county, every town's playing the same too. I mean, you help us, we'll help you. What's good for Tazewell County is good for Mercer County, it's good for Russell County. We're all on the same team in Southwest and Southwest Virginia. So, you know, just getting the moral support, the new guidelines out there, and that's even sticky, by the way. That's pretty, that's been tough. When you look at Bluefield, now Bluefield, Virginia, you have Princeton. Princeton's doing $250 million project, so to intuitively, I guess that's probably 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years out. Not really on our level. So we're looking at something to happen in obviously the next 2 years, which is what council agreed on. But I'm pretty much, I can tell you that you can see those doors in a year. First round of application for funding is usually closed, but you learn where your mistakes are at. You build those levels of communication with those funders. In round 2, you improve on them. So the first round of most funding and can be complicated. I know that through experience, Robin and I, we've done $42 million in the last 12 years in grants. So we've got a great staff. We're going to keep punching at it. Our outside economic demand, I mean, if it can't happen, we'll see those doors in a year. So we just have to see how it goes. It's the only industry that I know of, and for anybody that's ever been in travel sports, it's the only one I know of where you build on. So it's not like an industrial park or a business. It's actually a demanding industry. It's the only one I know of.
We're actually calling our grant applications, we're titling it building an industry in Tazewell, not building a sports complex.
Sure.
Because that's not what we're doing, we're bringing an industry here. And I do want to mention that Todd and I did make a presentation to the Shop Foundation back in the spring. We ain't gonna know, we just gotta, not right now. And we have a verbal commitment for.
Yeah, we understand why. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So, we get it.
Okay.
Quite the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, $20 million, it's not anything to sneeze at, but I do, right now, I feel like our best opportunity is the Arise program. We already got our foot in the door.
That's good that she sounds hopeful.
Yes.
And willing to help us out. That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah. Again, any opportunity you have to have an audience with our delegate, Congressman, please be a cheerleader and a champion for this project. They need to see that you all support it. And if you think they're not watching social media, they are. They're looking to see who supports it and if the community supports it. And so I think Todd's doing a great job at getting information out there and addressing issues and concerns.
They might have staff watching it that brings it to their attention.
Somebody's watching.
Somebody is watching that lets them know.
Yeah. Any other questions?
North Tazewell.
North Tazewell, all right. So I made a status update, but I think it was too late to be included in your packets, but I think Todd printed them off.
No, I didn't.
No,
I didn't.
can't make one.
Memory.
It's in
They're
there.
in there?
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. The numbered list.
Yes, it is a numbered list. All right. So let's just back up a little bit of history. Back in July, Amanda with Appalachian Voices came and spoke to you guys and introduced you all to Appalachian Voices and let you know that as part of my role with that nonprofit, they send me into coal impacted communities to provide technical assistance on community development block grants. And so I saw an opportunity for us to take advantage of that here in Tazewell, for North Tazewell, Riverside Drive neighborhood. And I just want to be really clear so there's no confusion. That's funded by Appalachian Voices. That is at no cost to the town of Tazewell. This is not a Tazewell paying Amanda to do the grant. This is Appalachian Voices. Emily, Councilwoman Davis had a great idea to include Tazewell Today as part of this process, and it was a great fit because as part of it, you have to form a project management team. So we brought in Tazewell Today. We had members from the town council, we had the mayor, we had Kara from the IDA, we have the Clinch River Valley Initiative, and we have representation from the Cumberland Plateau Planning District. We also have residents and stakeholders in the North Tazewell community on our project management team. So we've had regular project management team meetings, and we held a community listening session on August 31st. And Emily was there, and Joe came. You just missed it. Yeah, you just missed it, but that's okay. We had 24 people show up. There was a really good turnout, a lot of passion in that room. Very clearly, the priority of the residents of North Tazewell is they want the blight addressed, and they want to see economic development. So we feel like this is a great pathway, and the CDBG grant will be a catalyst for those goals to be met. I've got action at the bowling alley on here as a bullet, but I'm going to skip that because I think Kara is going to give an update on bowling alley and all the successes that have already happened there. And we submitted the grant yesterday, so it has been handed over to DHCD to review. This timeline is not as long. I think we'll probably hear something within 30 days. Typically seems to be the trend. They'll review it, and 30 days later, you know if you got it or not. So the next steps would just be, we get the grant, the project management team will see it through and administer it, and continue to engage the community and keep the community informed. We have a lot of people in North Tazewell who are excited to see some energy being focused there and some attention being paid. So we appreciate you all giving us the permission to see that one through. Do you have any questions about North Tazewell?
All right, thanks, man.
Oh, yeah. When do you meet on that? Do you have regular meetings on that, or just?
I think we
They
decide
haven't been
after.
regular.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're not copied on there, I'll make sure that.
I think I may be.
I think so too. Kara's been arranging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember what all I read sometimes.
Thanks, Amanda.
I do too.
All right, so next on the agenda is Ms. Kara Spitus. Go give us an update on the bowling alley.
All right, Kara.
You always smile.
Hello. I'm Kara. I'm an IUTA member, and as a kind of a project within the project of North Tazewell, since the bowling alley is under the purview of the IUDA, we submitted a grant through the DEQ on September 14th. It's for their Virginia Brownfield Restoration Economic Redevelopment Assistance Fund. You guys actually have a copy of that in your packet, I think. So it's supposed to be reviewed on October 4th, but it's actually being reviewed tomorrow. And I think we will hear back fairly soon, maybe within the week. What we applied for was $50,000 in that grant, and it will be used for co-mingled asbestos abatement and interior demolition of the building because the conditions in the building have continued to decline due to the state of the roof. And so basically we need to get all the asbestos out, and with that, that means everything that's fallen down. So any of the extra funds from that grant will be allotted to getting an updated structural assessment so that we actually know how much it will cost to keep the building standing. And so we've worked extremely closely with Karen Weber of the DEQ, who is amazing at her job and really fun to work with, and she's really excited about having a presence in Tazewell and helping Tazewell. So I feel really confident that our partnership, that we'll get this grant. She's also helped us have a completed phase 1 assessment. I don't know if that was in your, it is in the packet, or it's in the Dropbox. Anyway, if you want to read that and see all the updated pictures from Stantec, you can. They're also continuing to do a phase 2 assessment, and I'd like to say both of those have been free to the town. She's using EPA funding for both phase 1 and phase 2 assessments. And so the other piece that she's going to help us hopefully start is collaborating with Dialogue and Design to have more an outside force and helping us plan and see what the space could be used for. And so yeah, I am honored that thought I could work on this project because it's been a real learning experience for me. And something that Karen has continued to emphasize is that we're in the information gathering stage. So we're going to have a very updated profile on the state of the building, what it could potentially be reused for, and then any actually implementing the grant funding is going to be done, within 6 months. So we'll be able to have hopefully something complete within a pretty quick time frame. So all props to Karen. But yeah, do you guys have any questions?
Good job.
Were there any tanks on that site?
They have been removed.
Yeah,
They've already been removed?
Yeah.
So that's
And
the big-
they haven't found any new ones that I've been aware of.
They were removed several years ago. Orphan tank fund paid for that.
Okay.
So that money's still floating around in the state. It's been
It
around.
says between 2016 and 2019.
I think that's it.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Abigail?
Next on the agenda is a flood study discussion, Mr. Aaron Gillespie.
Council members, thank you for having us again. I'll actually be kind of short. Our county administrator, Eric Young, has the meat and potatoes behind what the study revealed, but I'll kind of tee it off for Eric. One particular component to the flood study, obviously it was countywide. We've got data from Bluefield, Richlands area, Tazewell, North Tazewell, but particularly with relationship to the town, there was some very interesting data and conversation on some areas over North Tazewell, particularly Blacksburg Street. They identified that as an area that needs some attention. And there were some options that were revealed in that flood study as to what to do. And one thing in particular that I think the county and the town are both very familiar with is the clinch. And what we're allowed to do with that waterway and what we're not permitted to do by DEQ standards or EPA. And so I know the county is currently discussing what we can do to assist the town, what we may have to do going forward. I know that the residents of the Blacksburg Street area came to our last Board of Supervisors meeting and discussed at length some of the issues that they have found, particularly Ms. Sinkford. She gave and presented her account of recent events and how flooding there is somewhat common. And I think that there are some objectives that we can both set together to achieve, somewhat on a more immediate timeline and then work towards bigger goals. One thing in particular I found interesting is that they said a potential solution is actually building retaining ponds up the water way, which I'm not sure can be accomplished, whether it be cost prohibitive or actually finding property that we can put the retaining ponds on in the event that we have a major flood. But those are some of the things that we received in that report. And so I think with that, I may turn the floor over to Eric, and he'll be able to provide you some more information.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
I usually back clean up, Mr. Mayor.
That's it.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. Mr. Gillespie gave a pretty succinct account of the flood study. We had a terrible flood in Richlands in 2020. I call it the disaster before the disaster that everybody forgets about, but it was very sobering. Buchanan County has had 2 similar floods within 3 years. So last year, the State Department of Conservation and Recreation offered a grant to Buchanan and Tazewell counties to study flooding. And primarily they were focusing on the western end of the county because how we deal with our flooding affects Buchanan and Russell counties. So we looked at the western end of the county, but we did look at the entire county as a whole. We got a lot of information from that. It recommended a lot more studies. This is much like a comprehensive plan. You know, the town has a comprehensive plan, we have a comprehensive plan. It's ambition, it's things you'd like to be able to do. It'll take a lot of time and a lot of money, and all you can do is simply line them up in order what you can do now and what you can do later, and just try to work on them over generations to solve these problems. Primarily in Tazewell, the spots that were identified aren't going to surprise anybody, four-way, Dial Rock. But in Blacksburg Street, though, we had a lot of residents come out and complain about flooding. And they are within the 100-year floodplain there. There are homes there that can be flooded. The thing that's most interesting about that was it's sort of an artificial nature. Because across the street there's a mill that has a dam beneath it. And the dam blocks up the river, and then it floods the community. So we went over there and looked at it, the engineer over there looked at it, and we are thinking that it may be possible to remove the dam without removing the building, because the experts that did this study recommended that the building be removed, and then you're looking at $2 million and you're interrupting business, and it would be very expensive. But we're going to see if that dam can be removed. There is a grant available that we can apply for to get an engineer to give us a study on the dam. My board got very frustrated because we did a study and it recommended a lot of studies. So, but the way these grants work, and Todd will tell you, is you apply for a grant. It's not enough for us to say that we think this is what we need to do. You need some expert to come in and say this is what needs to be done. So Blacksburg Street's important. More generally speaking, the primary problem that we saw throughout the county is the perception of our inability to dredge these streams. When you impose in the 1970s all these restrictions on dredging these streams to protect these species, in the course of our lifetimes, they've filled up. You know, we had people that came to public meetings and said, you know, you should swim in this river, now I walk across it. You know, and it's very expensive to get the permits, very complicated process on the permits. As a consequence, people are not doing that, and a lot of places that didn't flood before flood more easily now. So that's a problem. We are trying to see if we can get a national permit that would allow us to go in at points of opportunity and clean out some of these streams. I think that's a good idea. Also, another thing, we're going to meet with VDOT and talk to them about what their protocols are on inspecting and cleaning debris from their bridges and their culverts, because that's identified as a problem countywide. That blocks the access dams in the middle of the flood event. One thing I did want to touch on that affects all of us, and the people in the county and the town as well, is the flooding of wastewater treatment plants. They don't flood from the outside. The concern is flooding from the inside. Because if you have leaky sewer lines and manholes, and they get submerged and flood, then that water comes through the lines and can flood your plant.
Yeah, we don't have that problem.
Really? Okay. But anyway, we have 3 sewer plants we mainly rely on in the county. As Todd knows, Bluefield, Virginia's wastewater goes to West Virginia, and they have a mega plant there. I'm sure they have the same problems. But Richlands, Tazewell, and then Falls Mills are 3 plants that have that issue. The primary issue is manholes that aren't watertight and they get flooded. And it causes a problem that if you have a bypass, then you get sewage in the floodwaters that then goes downstream into people's homes, and that creates a bypass for them. That's one issue. The bigger issue for us, the county, is if you all get flooded, then we can't send you leachate from the landfill. And we have to find somewhere to take it. Well, if Tazewell's flooded, I can tell you in an hour, 2 hours, Richlands is flooded, right? So, problems, you know, so that's a big problem for us. There's a grant opportunity, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric just made us aware about a week ago about a grant opportunity, and I've had an opportunity to sit down with Eric and the town manager and Richlands and Jana with the PSA, and it's a great opportunity, and yeah, speak on it, yeah, give them an update on it, actually.
We have a firm in DC that looks for grants for us, and talking about the flood study, and we went through some of these problems, and there's a grant called BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure. It's through FEMA and Virginia Department of Emergency Management. And it will pay 75% of the cost of a project to make you more resistant to flood. So at 75%, I met with Todd and I said, "Wait, did you have a study?" And it was really good because he was on top of it. You had a study done in like January of this year, just as studies go, because it's like yesterday.
Yeah.
So that was good news. Bad news was the number was really big on what that was going to cost. And it is for most people, and that's why your Richlands turns out they had one on the shelf too. But if you separate just the manholes, that number's a lot smaller. It's $2.5 million to just deal with the manholes. When you're talking about a surface flood event, the manholes are the thing. That's where we're going to get our bang for our buck as far as preventing the flooding. The other issues underground are mainly an efficiency issue for you because you're treating a lot of subsurface water that's not sewage. But the number for Richlands, strangely, was about the same, about $2.5 million. The PSA's number is about $2.5 million. So we thought we could put a combined grant application together for about $7.5 million. Okay, but it's a 75% grant. Okay, so in the end, you'd be on the hook for 25% of, I think it was 2.2 actually, maybe a year or something like that.
That's correct.
You would be on the hook for 25% of that. Okay, and I was talking to Todd and I was talking to Mr. Mundy, town of Richlands, and both towns are getting ready to borrow probably a significant amount of money for upgrades to their plants. And my thinking is, if you're going to borrow $10 million, then what's 10.5? If you then can get another $1.5 million in grant money and solve this other problem too, which by the way, helps defend the plant you're borrowing the $10 million for. So I think it's worth a shot to apply for that grant. I spoke with Jan Cordell at the PSA. They actually have been approved for a loan for 30 years at 0% for their $2 billion. So, had a conversation with her at DEQ, and I said, well, if we get this BRIC grant that pays for 75% of that, would you loan the towns their matching part at these same rates? And they said, yeah, we'll talk about that. We might do that. However, they said they were funding a project in Washington County exactly like this, and it came in yesterday at 170% of the estimated cost. They said, you probably are going to need this grant just to stay par with where you think you are now. So that was, it was.
How recent was their study?
Their study?
How recent was their estimated cost?
About a year.
So is this due to the increase of materials?
Everything. What's happening is the infrastructure money is coming out through the feds. So everybody's buying the same stuff. And there's only a certain number of people that can do this. There's only a certain number of pipes that are out there to be had. So we're bidding against each other for this, and it's all going to growth. But that was somewhat discouraging. I'd like you to think about that, though. If it's worth it to you, and just let me know the 15th of November whether or not we want to go forward. They pre-approved us in a similar process to what the mayor was talking about. We were pre-approved to apply for that this week. So if you're interested, please let me know, and we'll have a similar conversation with the town of Richlands. Maybe a different conversation. We'll talk about the same thing.
I heavily recommend we support Eric in at least applying for it, and just like any other grant application, you know, we'll end up having to sign a dotted line sometime, and we can dive deeper in it. So our project went from 10.7 to 18. So the SSES grant that we got was $100,000. It was 75-25 match. By the way, that was 100% grant money. It just did the study. So keep in mind that, as Eric mentioned, the manholes are only a small portion of the fix. But it is the most demanding and easiest to handle. So the 2 million, 3 million can cover a lot of ground and actually have the largest impact. As you're aware of, manholes are always at river or creek elevation for obvious reasons.
Well, we've had some complaint on some manholes in the past.
Yeah.
Due to excessive rain and sewage backup.
Are the manholes, this manhole repair project, were they included in any of the other projects we have recently talked about?
No, all of that $18 million upgrade was strictly the sewer treatment plant. The SSES grant that we applied for, that's been about 2 years ago, and we got it, was funded by CPPD. It was 100% funded, by the way. And it just identified. And by the way, every town in the county, before they applied for it, had the reassurance that DEQ wouldn't hold it against us when they revealed the results. And so far, we've had a good working relationship. But this opportunity, it's obviously a great opportunity to at least support Eric and proceed forward with it on behalf of the town. And as I stated, there will be a day where we'll have to look at our finances more in depth before we sign the dotted line. Obviously,
Do you need to vote on that, or you just want to vote?
just your own record, we'll support the record.
I think we started it.
We'll give it a shot, you know, and there'll be there are other opportunities related to this flood study that I see that there are grant opportunities. I'll bring Mr. Day, bring the council, and we'll try, free money's always better.
Yeah.
Cheap is good, but free is better.
And Mr., I know talking to Mr. Monday also, they're obviously going to jump on board. I mean, until you get something negative back in writing that defies what Eric is explaining, might as well write it out. So, it's a great opportunity.
Eric, I have a question. Was there any talk about also taking out the dam that's further down on Riverside Drive?
Mr. Perry's, I think.
There was, I believe, something in the report that talked about that.
Okay. I know.
We had kind of mixed feelings about that, because to some degree the dam can function to help you, depending on what the weather is beforehand.
Right.
What we have seen recently is long rainy periods with a spike. That's when that dam can hurt you. If you have dry spell and a big rain, and the dam's low when you start, then it kind of helps you. I will say that they reviewed the information on Lincolnshire Dam, and it's in good shape. Evans Creek is in good shape. There were some dams in West Virginia that were not very good shape, but that water flows north, so we're not really paying all attention to those.
Okay.
And just for the records, Cabs Creek and Lincolnshire both are heavily inspected, and we spend a lot of money on those dams each year to have them inspected and maintained. Eric, just for people who may be concerned, there is no drive right now to remove the dam. I mean, it's intuitively obvious if you remove it, it's going to help flooding upstream. But there's no drive right now, or no chatter about actually being aggressive to look at that, is it to remove that dam, and if so, the communication with Farm Bureau.
Well, we would like to meet with Farm Bureau and talk to them about, we're not going to do anything that you all don't want. It's in your tank.
Sure.
But if we smell free money that might help you, we're going to come to you and say,
Sure.
Look, this might help the situation. But we did have several residents come to not only our public hearing specifically on the study, but also to a board meeting where the study was presented and said, we're scared that we're going to get flooded and, lose our homes.
I can tell you that communication with Eric has always been above board and worked really well on projects. And Eric, been in local government as long as I have, and he understands the sensitivity when it comes to the public perception of, buildings and structures, et cetera. I actually recently learned, and I kind of feel like a fool, but I've always thought that dam was active, and it actually, it has not been a turbine mill dam for about 50, 60 years. And I just recently learned that it's actually electronically ran. It's also my understanding that the gates on that dam are open. And they stay open pretty much all the time. So I look forward to working with Eric and his team and looking at flooding. And sometimes I feel like we're trying to reinvent a wheel. It's been flooding, and it's in the floodway, 100-year floodway. You used to see it once, you're supposed to, once every 100 years, and we've experienced, I know, 4 federal declarations in the last 15. But we'll keep our communication up with Farm Bureau. If anything comes up, any changes, we'll do all we can to be sure you guys will work.
The study is on TazewellCountyResiliency.com if you want to look at it online. It's a couple hundred pages or I brought copies.
The Clips Notes version. The Clips Notes version of it.
I just gave you the book. I'll tell you
Aircom.com.
I'll tell you, there's 7 sections. The first 5 are going to bore you to death. It's about us. As I told the Bluefield Town Council, it's not a study for us, it's a study about us. So what the weather's like here and what the topography's like here and all that stuff we already know. Okay, it rains a lot here. The mountains are sticky, you know. But it's written for agencies that we would apply to for grants that wouldn't know anything about us. So if you want the Cliff Notes, section 7 is where it's at.
Any more questions? Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good evening.
Aaron, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Can I say something?
I don't.
No.
Yeah, I mean, she performed, I think she's got my.
I'm at the Farm Bureau, and I'd like for these 2 to speak before they leave on behalf of Farm Bureau, if they got just a couple minutes.
Sure. If you got a couple minutes.
What I have to say would be very beneficial for these gentlemen that are here.
Go ahead. You can come up and speak if you want. Come on.
Gotta get your blood type down.
For those of you that may not know me, I'm Don Critter. I'm Don Critter Repair, which is directly beside the Farm Bureau. I've been there for 36 years. Whenever they got a complaint about the dam being backed up, Shirley would call me and I'd put a boat in the water, tile for the road, and I would cut the trees and stuff out. But on behalf of thinking about the trees and the stuff that's in there, 75% of what I cut up was cut down with a saw upstream. And I can tell you now that I've actually seen, I'm not going to call names, but one yard they cut a bunch of trees down and left the logs and the brush, and the flood came and it did bring it down. The other thing, the Farm Bureau asked me, before Todd Day became manager, the town called and wanted me to go down there and open the gates up. There's one gate that's probably 2 foot by 2 foot. It's out of the water and hanging by a chain. The other gate is about 5 or 6 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. That gate is completely out and blocked off. I cut a hole in it and put a 1 1/4 inch rod through it so it can't go back down. With that in mind, the larger gate is over to the left of the mill, closer to the road. And back in 2019, they asked me to clean that out. Now, over a period of probably 12 or 14 years, Farm Bureau has tried to take care of these when they would call. And they probably paid me somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 to go in and clean the dam out. The last one, they paid me $3,000 to go in and clean that causeway out. Now, what I got out of that causeway was a couch, a fold-away bed. None of it had material on it. It was just the metal framework and the woodwork. I got lawn furniture out of it, a mattress, and a box spring came out of it. And all of this stuff didn't come from the Farm Bureau. It came from upstream. Now, when you get a mattress in there, and that's what I call a causeway through there, when you get that in there and it locks And he was speaking about the turbines. There's 2 turbines in there, but they're not now. I took the turbines out so nothing else would hang up on them. But with that stuff hanging there, little stuff starts catching. And when that little stuff starts catching, it just keeps building a dam, and it keeps backing up. But the other thing, I'm not an engineer, I don't claim to be, but I've been there 36 years. I've had water in my building. If the dam is holding the water back and flooding Blacksburg Street, how come everything below the dam still floods? Mr. Day can probably tell you there's not a lot you can do with water. Water's going to do what it wants to do. And it's going to be hard to redirect anything in the clinch because you got to have a permit before you can spit in it. Now, there is a solution. I think I have a solution. If anybody ever wanted to hear it, I'd be glad to tell you. But Farm Bureau has tried its best to keep stuff out of there. But if the water rises 4 foot above the dam, it's 4 foot on my side below the dam, all the way. So I think if you could feasibly take 100 pounds of dynamite and blow the dam out, Blacksburg Street's still gonna flood. You're not gonna stop that. But there is a solution to correct the problem behind Florida Sinker and the rest of them down there. And that would be if they would put a 4-foot wall in the backyard at the river. And when you get up to the end of the dead end where William Mitchell lived, and you take that wall straight up towards the railroad where it'd be high enough, and you bring it all the way around until you get down to the Farm Bureau and bring it up towards the railroad. It'll keep the water from going back there. But it's going to put it on the other side. It's going to push the water to the side where there is no houses, but you're probably going to create trouble for the people that's across the railroad track behind the Farm Bureau. But I don't think taking the dam out is going to do anything. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Don.
So one question, just because of my lacking knowledge, does Farm Bureau
Oh, I'm
use the
sorry.
dam? Oh, you're fine, you could have kept it. Well, but does Farm Bureau use that dam? As a,
Oh, no, the dam's not used to control anything.
Okay, I just-
The turbines were taken out.
right,
But the dam, I'm not sure about the measurements, but the dam, the face of the dam is probably 10 feet tall total. And the dam goes like this.
right.
And it goes back probably 30 feet up toward Blacksburg Street. And it's going to be an astronomical cost to try to remove that dam without destroying anything in the Farm Bureau. It's just going to be almost impossible in my opinion, but I'm no engineer.
Okay, thank you.
You also have a Clinton Bell that had a concern on the same.
Oh, we're not at that point yet, we kind of got.
Oh, on the same topic.
On the same
topic.
Oh, is it same topic?
Same
Oh, okay.
This board, I'm Clinton Bell, I'm the president of Farm Bureau on the board of directors. And my comments would be that when we didn't hear anything about it until this whole thing hit the news, the board was voting on a plan. Well, nobody had been contacted to Farm Bureau. Matter of fact, the survey people that you all hired came on Farm Bureau property and examined the dam and didn't come talk to anybody. They just showed up, looked, and left. The other one, the paperwork we saw listed it as being an abandoned building. And I don't know who was doing this survey, who you all got to do it, but it had to be a bunch of blind folks because there's someone in there 5 days a week. We in 2022, we ran 1,416 tons of feed through the mill. It feeds 5 retail stores in Tazewell, Bluefield, Richlands, Chilhowee, and Abington. We sell bulk feed into 4 or 5 counties. We go to Mercer County, West Virginia, all the way to Washington County. So it's a pretty good chunk of our business is in the mill. And we'd be glad to talk to anybody about it if somebody just communicate with us.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we'd be happy to talk to you about it, we plan to talk to you about it. The study presented several options, and that's one of the options that we're talking about. The levies that he discussed, they considered those as well. We also considered buyouts and people in the neighborhoods to buy all their houses, which may be cheapest option of the 3, but displacing people from their homes is not something we really want to do in a democratic process. But
we'd like to be more included in something that's gonna affect us, and this what came out after the board voted on this project, what was in the paper said the plan included tearing down an abandoned building. And that was all we'd ever been told, so.
The plan,
If I, Mayor, who's my address, maybe comment, I don't mean to step out of turn, but the plan that our Board of Supervisors voted on was simply the presentation that the flood study for the entire county was presented. It didn't include any specific objective that we said, we're going to go do this. The meeting that the flood study, the company that did the plan, the meeting that we had, for one, I only think we had 3 people actually show up to that meeting to provide public comments on. But second, I made sure that the owners of the properties around that location were on the to-do list to be contacted. It's my understanding that that hasn't been achieved yet. But I can assure you from the county perspective, we weren't going to come around messing with any Farm Bureau property without at least having a sit-down conversation with you all first. That was never part of the agenda, and certainly wasn't part of the plan.
That wasn't how it read in the newspapers, that's all we've been going.
You're hearing it from the horse's mouth, that's what we're here right now.
Well, that's what we were looking for. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions there? Okay, so moving on, the next item is new business recognition. Unfortunately, we don't have any.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Clinton, I'll stay in touch with y'all if anything comes up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're not too hard to find.
You don't go check, but go check. The conversation's flowing.
So next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from council meeting on September 12th, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say so by saying nay. All right, minutes are approved. So next is the approval of financial statements and the financial report from September 2023.
Motion to approve.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say so by saying nay. All right, so financial statement reports are approved. So next, the committee conference updates. Planning Commission Committee, Councilmember Davis.
Planning Commission met a couple weeks ago. We talked about, there came someone forward that was wanting to close a portion of Orchard Street in North Tazewell, and we talked about various things in closing that and how it could be accomplished and still maintain access to the back of a couple of properties. But that is coming up later on to set a public hearing. We resolved how it could be accomplished, and we forwarded it up to council.
Is that it? Any questions? Okay, next is our unfinished business section. Manager Dave's going to talk about our lovely wildlife.
Okay, if you'll recall, at our last meeting, we had a concerned citizen talking about the number of coyotes that are in our political jurisdiction, and I can assure you it's more than he thinks are there. With that being said, we've checked, and I've actually added some of that documentation to your packet. I didn't mean to clutter it up, but we've checked with Susan has done a great job of checking with other localities and what they're doing, and obviously, I'm not going to support discharging a firearm within our political jurisdiction for obvious reasons. No other locality that we found allows that either. Several counties have bounties out there. Those bounties used to be funded by Farm Bureau, by the way, and most of them are limited to $2,500, $3,000. So I believe, to be honest and transparent, some of those bounties that are put out there or just strictly to public perception and the activity of removing coyotes. So I can assure you that there's more coyotes at your back door than you realize, but having issues out of them in town, I've never personally heard of any. But in order to help and assist to the best of our ability, I don't believe that allowing or hiring a trapper and taking on that liability with pets and smaller kids in a densely populated area is going to be very popular. But taking on responsibility of allowing our trained officers, our police officers, to take ethical discharge of coyotes is something that I can more than support in town. And
Don't get excited, Stan.
yeah, I've actually spoke to Stan and you know, we can get in touch with the game warden and have some additional training add to that and also let him know. You can bet that Brooks is on top of any of those activities. He works very closely with us when we have fishing tournaments, things of that nature. So I would recommend council support to do what Martinsburg is doing, and we'll give the officers the training that they need, but we'll adopt that ordinance, and I'll bring something back for council in November for you to actually vote on, and we can go through the political process of implementing that.
Any questions? So next on the agenda is the sports complex ASM contract discussion. Andrew?
Okay, you've got in your packet, or it's handed to you, one or two, you've got a contract. I know everybody has eagerly been awaiting that document, and I'm also aware that a number of months ago, council said to proceed forward with the new contract, Beasley Sports Management. I'm obviously dragging my feet on that. So there's a lot of discussion about that document, and I understand it. And I would encourage council to continue those discussions professionally. Having differences of opinion is a level of professionalism. Nothing wrong with it. So as long as we keep it that way, and obviously that attorney that represents Eastern Sports Management is not going to let that cookie jar go through without question. So I've spoken to John, and he's alluded that he will have a draft back to me, hopefully by the end of this week, which is a couple days away. So the local government, that's probably 2 weeks away from today. But just remember that a lot of applications that we work on, and I've worked on over the years in local government, there's been a lot of them that wanted to see votes. So just keep that in mind. And because of that, and knowing that there's some question out there tonight, I would respectfully ask council to just leave it alone for tonight. And
Did he address, sorry if I interrupted, but did he address any concerns that based on seeing the initial draft, was like, you know, we'll be looking at this area?
my communication with him was actually just through a text message, and he just said he would get something back to me. He did say that we were very, very accurate. It wasn't the words he used, but we asked for everything with the kitchen sink. So, and we did. You know, not my first rodeo of contracts. We knew they'd bounce back, but again, the public perception and the grant perception of those votes are very powerful. So I would just, without risking that tonight, I would table it. I don't want to do that. I hate procrastinating on a 3-page document, but I would rather not see a split vote on something that important.
But I'm pretty confident we'll have his draft version within the next week and a half.
According to John, anyway.
Now, does that mean we need to wait till next month to vote, or will we be able to handle that through email, or?
I can run it through email. I can continue to communicate with council via modern technology. And
Well, I'm assuming when
he's got this draft, and even though we're not quote voting on it now,
Right.
they're gonna throw something back.
They will, they'll throw something back. I know that draft has got 100% of everything that this governing body wanted in it. I know that for a fact. I'm that confident it's in there. So, and there was no changes that were kicked back to me after reviewing of that draft. But again, I understand and respect the atmosphere, and I'm very aware of it and being part of it. I'm just blessed to be part of it. So sometimes things slip in the back door I don't have control over. It's hard to lead and manage. But with this situation, I respect the atmosphere of questions that are out there. And it demands a unanimous support whenever you guys are ready. So, and I have a feeling that it probably won't go that way tonight. So, the devastation that it would cause across Richmond, I'm worth the risk.
Well, I feel better about knowing that they have a copy and they are reviewing it. I thought we were voting so that it was okay to give them two reviews.
Yeah, I apologize if that, my communication was off there, but no, he actually got it the exact same day council was in.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was hot off the press. I didn't call it at all. I mean, I didn't hold on.
Yeah, we'll wait for their rebuttal, and then we can look at that.
Yeah.
And Brad can look at it.
No, I think it's a pretty good contract.
I do too.
I'm pretty excited to see what they come up with. You know, I personally, I imagine that they're gonna try to work in some trans-occupancy.
Oh, yeah, they're going in there.
Now, if you know you're unanimously gonna vote for it, and for 624.
No, it's dead on, I mean, they've got a new draft coming in.
Yeah, it's liable to be months. Those contracts, especially in local government, it's liable to be months for something's out there that we'll get there.
I mean, it doesn't sound like there's even any point in voting on it. If it's gonna be changed.
Well, there's an application process that we're going through. And, you know, Amanda's diligently working on grants, and, you know, to be able to say that 2 months ago, this board told me to proceed forward with implementing a new contract, you know, putting the unanimous support behind it with this, would be really good.
For time savings, I think that, if we can do it via email, once we see what he comes back with, so we're not approving something that might change next week.
I think we got a negotiation room.
Yeah, I'll get, as soon as he comes back with it, I'll kick it out there.
But this is part of the funding, right? So we're looking at funding and providing this out there for,
You know, what we will do is we will take that document, for example, to DHCD, and in order to better qualify for grants and to show DHCD that we're secure and we're wearing suspenders and belts, I can show them that there's a unanimous vote of support for $368,000. And of course, they look at that like, wow, they just now gained another 10 points on a 100-point program because they're guaranteed money. So behind that is also RD that I'm working on simultaneously to build back potential bonds. So it's just the perception of that, and they will ask for those votes. They will ask to see those minutes. So
What's that we need to have this approved?
October 31st.
Okay.
That. But yeah, we do have to include the MOUs, any MOUs that we have. And right now, we don't have a current one.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't it be a little misleading if we know that they're gonna not agree to these terms, or they're gonna hit it back with something else, for us to include fodder that says, oh yeah, we got this agreement, but it's not.
But now we have to revote next month on another agreement.
what happens historically, with my experience, is all the way to the end, they'll change. So this agreement right here was a tool for us to use, Amanda and I and anybody else doing fundraising, to help secure loans, or low interest loans, or grant money. It only gives those funding agencies a level of security to help them sleep better at night, help them give you a higher score. So it'll change all the way to the date. So if we look at it, if you look at it without the perception of $368,000, I don't know what the interest rate's gonna be. I don't know what the dollar value's gonna be, and I don't know who the bank is. So this issue will run all the way up to the day that it's taken off the table or the ground is broken. So that contract that, Brad drafted up and him and I worked on for weeks, was a public perception draft for funders, and they know it too. But it was solid enough for them to see that it was real.
So basically, they're looking for us to say, yes, we're all behind this.
Absolutely, that's what I'm looking for. I would, if I know I'm not gonna support it unanimously, I would actually be misusing my powers to actually do so. That would be a disjustice.
Well, we created an artificial deadline for ourselves by having October coming up, and we're just now receiving it.
Sure.
So we kind of tripped over our feet here.
Sure.
Because we did receive this on Friday. Like I said, a lot of it I'm not opposed to, but I've read through it, with other obligations and what have you, just a couple times. Initial look, it looks good. However, we did just receive it. We know that they're going to hit us back, so.
And what we'll do,
basically until November on this.
I don't think we can.
well, what Amanda will do, we'll just hover in place until we know it's the last minute and, she'll punch it through. I don't have any choice. I cannot send it in with a split vote.
Well, we've got like 2 weeks. If you can get on the horn with John and get it back as soon as possible, if we can utilize email or whatever, then
I will.
we can get it.
And y'all know as well as I do, 2 weeks kind of defies the laws of physics and local government. But we're gonna act, we're gonna do everything we can to make it happen. And I absolutely respect Angela's directed with that, the attempts here to find a better opportunity maybe that's out there. I get it. I don't blame you, I would too.
I guess my only issue is delaying Amanda, and then also knowing that if we get John's back, we're not gonna agree to that one. And then that's gonna have to be changed, and then that's gonna have to...
Again, it's a moving target.
I know.
And it's gonna change all the way to the day.
But I'm just saying, I'm wanting to give you all something to proceed with.
I backed into 5.5 million. I didn't come up with the 368. I backed into it. So I took 5.5 and I took 40 years. Well, I want to fund this thing for 40 years. I don't even know any banks other than one that'll do that. And they're behind it, but you're not going to find a non-affiliated governmental bank that's going to stretch out 40 years. So, I literally backed into that number, and it just so happened to work out 40 years at 6%, I can't even remember, but that debt service payment. So, again, it's the perception that funders see, and it'll change again in 2 weeks, and we'll submit it, and it'll be a continuous file cabinet, opening and closing for 40 years if you're able to obtain that for 40 years. So it'll change. It's just when you do vote on it, it needs to be unanimous.
Is that going to make things difficult on you?
It does, it's just, we can submit the MOU that we have, but it's sloppy because it's not current, it's not.
So is there a difference between an MOU and a contract? Because I would look at it as
Yes.
2 different pieces of paper. So
We
I
haven't-
can't get an MOU.
We have not got the MOU yet. Actually, it's ready, but he has not sent it to me yet.
Because that's what's holding her up, not the contract.
Well, if that's the one she's speaking about.
Is that,
We submitted to the EDA grant, previous MOU, when we
Right.
initially began conversations with the ESM.
Right. And that one, as you know, I pulled off the table because of a letter from Jim Baldwin at CPPD. So that was almost a year ago, by the way.
So can we get an MOU from him
We're working on,
while we're in the process of evaluating the
we're
contract?
absolutely working on simultaneously.
because that's all you need, right? You don't need recorded vote from council, you need an MOU.
Well, a contract would be much better,
Yeah.
but an MOU.
But you're still not gonna have a contract if they don't agree to the terms, so.
No, but she has
She has a contract that
verification
we've
that
agreed to.
yeah, that council is behind us and we are,
So if we vote on it the way it
agreement.
is, in my opinion, and someone can change if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, if we vote on it the way it is and he changes it, what we voted on is null and void. Because we voted on it for a specific,
Yes, sir.
but for her grant
For her
purposes,
grant,
it
she
helps.
she has a unanimous vote.
Yeah, so you're asking a good complicated question, but whenever you vote on it, regardless, tonight or next week, it just needs to be team support behind it. It needs to be unanimous. The understanding in Richmond is it'll change all the way up to the date. I'm just saying the 5-1 or the 4-2 or the split vote does not look good.
so I'm just going to step outside the box. What about this one? You can't get unanimous.
It's the same way, I mean, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who the elected official is, I mean, the power.
Well, I'm just saying he's not here
Being
tonight.
an abstention.
Oh, yeah, no, just a unanimous vote of who's here. Doesn't have to
President,
be-
okay.
If we vote tonight, regardless, it's gonna change. They're
It's
gonna come
Yeah.
back, they're gonna come back with it.
Yeah.
Even if John signs it, I'm telling you, the 5.5 million.
It's
and
not
you-
gonna be that when we go
Yeah,
to do
it's
it,
not.
so you're gonna have to rewrite it
It's
anyway.
not. You're gonna have to rewrite it all the way up to the date the ground is broke, or either you pull it off the table.
Because the numbers, the way I understood it in drafting this, those numbers are likely to change.
Oh, they will change.
Bottom line, that's the way it was drafted is currently. And you think about it, how many times has any numbers you've done with any project you've had here? You go an extra 6 months, you go an extra 18 months.
And
Cost of
Change.
things change, and so therefore, this factor of what the guarantee is based on existing or possible fee and revenue sources, they're gonna change too.
So,
So in this
So that's
contract,
my perception of it when I drafted.
and Brad, I need your advice on this. In this case, as far as contracts go, would it make more sense to have a memorandum of understanding that then becomes a contract? Or in this case, because I didn't see language in here that says at such and such point, when we enter into a comprehensive agreement and we have final numbers, we're going to renegotiate this contract. Because
let me answer that one. And I had the opportunity to do that. So I had an opportunity to enter into another contract that we all know is dated. And by the way, I know for a fact that the new contract is increased by $50,000. So it was $748, $749, it's increased by $50,000. But I was not going to give Eastern Sports Management the benefit of signing a contract to spend $750,000 without guaranteeing that debt service money was going to be there first. And he knows it, and he didn't like it. But I want to be sure that that money is guaranteed, that we're going to get it, and council's happy with it. And if he's able to sign that contract, and the fees is canceled and our attorney, then we'll enter into another contract to spend that $800,000. But until then, I'm not spending $800,000. Well, I don't want to without knowing that he's gonna make the payment. So I don't know if that answered your question, but, I just didn't want to enter into another contract to spend useless money, waste that money.
okay, in terms of the engineering work, but in this agreement, in the contract that we have that we're voting on,
Yes.
or would vote on, there's no language in there about a renegotiation period.
Right.
I failed to see that language in there.
It's not, it's just a 368. I don't know if that's answering your question, but there's nothing in there at all. All the language about coming to the table or having an opportunity to renegotiate, all of that would be in a larger document. This is only the 368 that I was trying to lock in. I might be missing the boat too by trying to do that, but I'm purely trying to lock in that $368,000 so we can be guaranteed those
And
funds.
that's what I told Councilman Catron just a little bit ago, because that number is derived from 2018 and 2019
Yes,
numbers.
yes.
So we know, just like we discussed with these other projects, we're going to see an increase in cost.
Yes.
So the only other thing that worries me about this is that we're trapping ourselves artificially low for an agreement that we received Mr. John Wax said he's gonna cover the debt service payment, and it comes in at a higher rate.
Right.
So, is there I don't want to call it a trap, but is there a legal obligation that he can come back and say, you guys said this number and no further?
Absolutely.
So,
He'll absolutely lock it into 368
Yeah, he's not gonna go above that number.
if it has to come out of his pocket.
Right.
So for example,
He's guaranteeing
I-
that generation of those funds though.
yeah, the 368, he is guaranteeing that you will receive that. So if you will look at that, what's his factor of safety? In reality, he's thinking we're going to get 500,000. He's going to pay the meals tax. He's going to pay the real estate. He's going to pay the money coming in and out the door. He's going to pay every dime of taxes and fees that we charge, that we have on our books. And that might be $500,000 a year, no problem. But he's guaranteeing 368. Does that guarantee a debt service payment? Absolutely not. I don't know what the debt service payment's gonna be. I have no idea. I don't know.
I think the 368 came about because the language in the initial presentation said they would handle any negative cash flow shortfall. I don't remember the exact terminology.
Right.
But this was putting a number to
Correct.
what that negative cash flow floor is.
Right.
And then we can all, if he makes more than that, it generates more revenue than that.
That's fine,
then
yeah.
we're good. But, and that was just based off of, okay, what was that negative cash flow
Right.
minimum amount that they were going to
Yeah.
cover?
So in the year's term, after we do a due to from, or we go into an audit and we audit the numbers, which we're always a year behind, even when we have a true up to PSA, we're a year behind, obviously, because we use audited numbers. But when those audited numbers come back and we find out that we only received $350,000 from this indoor sports complex, we're going to get an additional $18,000, from him out of his coffers. But if we receive $500,000 in taxes, it's all good. We just keep operating. So what will our debt service be? Well, nobody knows that. This council's got to say, well, I'm not going to borrow any more than $4 million. I don't want to borrow a dime. You might have somebody that's more aggressive say, well, I'll look at $10 million. It just depends on the council and how you feel it, when that time comes. The idea, again, is to show the teamwork whenever you do vote. It will change all the way to the day that we break ground, if we do break ground. Just a unanimous vote. I know that what's in that contract is what this board was looking for. That doesn't mean things are not changing. That doesn't mean that we got another cycle to look at. It doesn't mean we don't have a better opportunity out there. We're only trying to punch in deadlines for Amanda and other applications and to make them look as strong as we can. That's all we're trying to do. We know they're going to change. And the 368, by the way, I want to be as transparent as I can. Our debt service payment might be $400. Might be $300. You don't know. I don't know. I'm just, he's guaranteeing that. And by the way, if you look as in depth to his what do you call that last document he submitted? What was that last?
his pro forma?
The performer. If you looked at that in depth and you really paid attention to it, he did not have a number in there to cover that. So,
Which is kind of a concern, right? I mean,
Well-
his pro forma in the first 5 years, if you look at the debt service payment to the $368,000, he's going to owe us close to $800,000,
right.
based on his projections.
Yeah, he's not even showing where he's coming up with the balance. There's a balance in there, and if you looked at it, I'm sure you have, but it's not even showing what it's going to make. If I was him, I wouldn't either. But he's only guaranteeing the 368. And he may change his mind for like so forth, I don't know. But he's not even showing where that number or what that number could produce. And there's going to be a negotiating period that takes place, by the way. There's no percentages out there that we've laid out there. So what percentages of the gate are we going to get? We don't know yet. He's just guaranteeing 360.
Well, that's why I want to lock him in on that number. And then I feel then it's our job after that, between the grants, that we make that number work.
Yeah, well, we'll fight in that direction. Again, I'm just looking for the unanimous support. That, you know, just like any important project, it's a big project. You want to be on the same team. So I know it's going to change. And even when John sends it back, are you going to, I mean, I know it's going to change. And when the real document is presented from the bank or RD or VRA, whoever submits it, y'all know it's going to have nothing to do with 5.5 unless we just get really lucky, or 6% interest or 40 years. It's just it just shows funders that, wow, they got an industry there that's willing to put up $368,000 and they legally have them tied in. And yeah, it'll change all the way to the date that it's approved. Yeah, absolutely will. Matter of fact, this council may want to renegotiate it. So not just John, y'all may want to renegotiate. And they'll be renegotiating
But
language.
I'm confused on the renegotiation piece, because if you read the language, it doesn't lay out terms. It has, for the interim agreement, and I think there's like an and versus an or that I would like in that language, but into the comprehensive. So if this is it, this is it. But what I fear is that we're going to leave, if we go this route, and I know he's going to come back, and of course he's going to try to hack it. Sure it would. But the used car salesman in me has an artificial anchor to a number that's 2 years old on the debt service payment. So I think we're going to leave meat on the bone in terms of the arrangements that we have talked about in person, which is him guaranteeing the debt service payment. So that's my chief concern. But in the contract that we have, so if we vote yes and we go through with this, they sign off on it, you have a contract that doesn't have a period of renegotiation in it. So I guess legally, and really, Brad, I'm looking for advice on this, is like, how do you take a contract, have a contract that doesn't have language built into it for a period of renegotiation, and then include that? Do you need to draft it?
My understanding, well, this is,
That's in a larger document.
that's gonna be, this is one piece that we wasn't even really anticipating. We went through the PPEA, this bounds for an interim agreement, which was initially entered into and then got pulled back. This is gonna be a component of another agreement, folks. This is not gonna be this catch-all, end-all, be-all. You're gonna have another agreement beyond this guaranteed debt service, as I call it, debt service revenue agreement, that's gonna go into an interim agreement that I can guarantee you
It'll be a
is
novel.
going to be renegotiated, retooled, and refashioned from both parties before it becomes final. It's going to, that's in there, you understand that now. This is going to check, most likely it's going to be moved around by both parties. Because the interim agreement is by the PPA is the controlling agreement. PPA doesn't reference a debt service revenue guarantee agreement. It's not in there. But this is going to be a component of that agreement, which is going to be the true binding contract between the parties. It's going to contain all those provisions of the Act. And that's the best I can explain it to you.
So in other words, this would be like an exhibit onto that whole.
I wouldn't say an exhibit, it's going to be a component of it. It's going to be one of those factors where they are guaranteeing of all the factors in terms of who's giving up what consideration. The consideration here right now is what we have, and I've got here projected, not actual, but projected, 200 million with a projected 5.5 million. That's there for a reason. It's nebulous that way because it's expected to move. I mean, that's just practical. It's practical for that.
What did you say, 200 billion?
20, sorry, I misspoke.
Right, and that's what I was gonna say. The opening section of the assumptions, if we don't meet those assumptions at the end, if those assumptions change, doesn't that, it would have to be
Those are just
amended?
recitals to give you an idea of the basis for ESM say that their 368 is gonna be something they're gonna guarantee for the purposes of the town, to be able to get other funding sources to say this money is gonna be there. We've got this money in our back pocket at a minimum. That's why it's called a minimum, not a maximum. A minimum guarantee.
In fact, you're right, the cost might have went up $5 million, and maybe 25 million or 30 million now. But he's only guaranteeing 368. It just happened.
Based on this contract, though.
Yeah, he's only
The language that we
guaranteeing.
had in communication, him meeting in the room, was the debt service payment. Now, if you've had other conversations with him that
No.
hate that, like, I'm all ears.
No, okay, so he is confident that we can make the debt service payment on 5.5. He said that from the beginning. He's only guaranteeing 368. But if you look at any business individual, and I know I'm talking with each of you, I'm not talking to you, but for him to guarantee $368,000, what is the factor of safety? Y'all are more business-minded than I am. So what is it, 1.5%, 2%? I mean, that's a lot of money. So he said in language that he would guarantee the debt service payment. Well, nobody knows what that's going to be, but it was announced from day one, 5.5 million from day one. So 5.5 million, and if you look at NASDAQ banks, I mean, you're not going to get 40 years out of that. I don't know a bank that's going to loan you 40 years, you know, unless you know somebody that knows somebody. So if you back into 20 years at 6%, 5.5, now you're punching $500 million. So he's still guaranteeing verbally, not contractually, that you can make the debt service payment. He's only guaranteeing 368. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a valid point you're putting out there. I mean, he's not guaranteeing in writing the debt service payment. Nobody knows what that's going to be. Yeah, I mean, but he is. But I can also promise you this: Bluefield, West Virginia, Princeton, ain't nobody getting a free ride. All of them are buying an economy. They're not getting a free ride. So it's going to come at a cost. And, you know, maybe you need to look at that.
Yeah. Well, our artificial deadline stems from grants that we need to receive. We've got 2 weeks before that comes to play. He said he's going to get you something by next Thursday.
He actually said this week, so maybe Friday.
Yeah.
As far as our applications go, you know, these agencies do their due diligence. They scrutinize everything that is written in these applications. And if we don't have a contract, it's essentially the equivalent of just saying, well, we have a pinky promise.
That's what this is, currently.
Yeah. That's all it is. It's just.
Yeah, but like I said, when we get his back this week, we're not going to agree to it. So then we're going to keep this same cycle going, then we'll be sending changes back again. And then
If you're looking for a document that's going to show that we're not spending any dollars and he's going to cover 100% and nobody knows what that's going to be, it ain't going to happen. It's never going to happen.
So our anchor is from 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's 368. Well, the 5.5 never changes, even if it was 10 years ago or 10 years from now. It's 5.5. It's 6% for 40 years. That's what that was calculated on. Let me take it back. Y'all know it was not calculated on that. The number just so happened to work out that way. So when he said that he would guarantee the 368 in an email, if y'all will recall my email, I actually bumped him up another $5,000 because it was 40 years at 6% for 5. It just happened to be there. But his man offered the 368, the 365. I bumped him up another 5,000. And he bid it and took it. His return on investment has a factor of safety that's obviously well north of 368.
I think where a lot of this came about is, one, you were asking the question several months back, what would be our limit on how much we would be willing to borrow. And I think 5.5, because that was the original plan, was kind of like I guess, that was just the number that was floating out there. And then whenever we asked about the shortcomings of the negative cash flows and all that, I think that's where that number came from. Now, I mean, I did just a quick loan calculator. The biggest factor in all this is going to be the percentage of the loan.
Sure.
Right? Which predicting what that's going to be by the time we get all this funding, 2 years from now in today's economy is impossible. And I think that if interest rates are over 10% or something like that, if they've gotten out of hand, then we're not going to be able to do it anyway. But I do think that, this at 6% is higher than your average loan that we have out now. That's higher than the average rate that we have. And if it goes lower than 6% in 2 years, which is possible, 368 is guaranteed to make that debt service payment and above. I think it's a good arbitrary number. No matter what the number is, it's arbitrary, right? But I think it's based off numbers that we have generally accepted so far as, with the understanding what we're at today, these numbers are good to make our debt service payment. And, if anything drastic changes, then plans are going to have to change.
Yeah, if you'll recall, the letter of intent, the original MOU had more outs in it in our favor than you could shake a stick at it. So again, I want to echo, no, I'm being redundant here, but it's it's the unanimous, stick together, fight for the same fight, pull in the same direction. I was talking to Jonathan earlier today. If Harold Heath is going this way, Johnson's going this way, Brian's sitting in the middle looking both ways, and ain't nothing happening. But if everybody on the same team is fighting to go, punch a ball through the same hole, then it usually happens. And that unanimous support is what all I'm looking for. That 368, just for the record, it's pretty fictitional. I mean, that just, he's guaranteeing that. I don't blame him I don't know how in the world he's guaranteeing that. I mean, he knows his industry, and he knows what it'll produce here. But for him to say he'll guarantee $368,000 in writing is pretty strong. That's like a 75% grant back to you. That's pretty strong, wasn't it? So again, I understand and respect, we can wait and Amanda and I will communicate together and when the last minute. And
Would you be able to vote by email?
Yeah, we'll just have to, what do you call it, ratify at the next meeting. But yeah, you can do it by email, just ratify. And keep in mind, it's not solid. I mean, it's going to change it, but it sure does help that application a lot when she's selected.
I'm ready to vote yes now.
That's up to, I mean, it's up to y'all either way. It's not a make or break deal.
Amanda, what's the latest you could take it? I know you said the 31st is when you need it to submit it, but you need to be prepared prior to that, right? I mean, you need a couple days to incorporate that into your...
It's pretty much prepared. It's just getting everything, all of the attachments together. I'd like to have 3 days before.
Gotcha.
And it is due at midnight on the 31st.
So
if we don't use prior to Halloween, is that right?
Yes.
The
Yes, Halloween's
31st
on
is-
Saturday this year, right?
No, it's on a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
So we have until next Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got something there.
That's what it says. He actually did by the end of
I'm out of touch with the events.
Again, it's just application perception. That's all it is. It'll change. There's nothing that locks you in.
It's also an anchor point for future negotiation.
Sure.
On that. So if it's all equal to you all. I'd like to do this.
Zach, I really think, I'll say this, Zach, I think you're putting way too much emphasis on the import of this on the interim agreement. I really do. And I'm the one that put this one together, and I've seen, of course, the original interim agreement. This thing is gonna move, guys, it's going to, this is not going to be, and I disagree, this is not gonna be an anchor. It is not. It gives you something at least to move from and have as a starting point.
So then we have nothing to lose and waiting to see what he comes up with this week.
Other than time,
Which,
I think that's a big
we're
deal.
gonna have a point for next Thursday.
If we start getting close to deadline time, then we vote the email on what we have
And
on
then
hand.
you still have this document. We've had it for 2 days, 2.5 days. So I think we can, I would be comfortable with that.
All right. That's all I've got. Mayor.
So, yeah, definitely keep us in the loop when he gets that.
Absolutely.
And we'll get it to Amanda within the 3 days if she needs it. Whether it's this one we have on hand or the new one that he sent. So, no miscellaneous unfinished business. So we're gonna go on to new business. Todd's gonna give us an update on the Smart Scale project.
Okay, the Smart Cell project for the town of Tazewell has been kind of disappointing for the last four years. We had 2 years or either 3 years at the intersection in front of Chris Brown's office, trying to upgrade that. And because of a lack of inevitable accidents or fatalities, it didn't qualify. Which it is what it is. So we went back to Bulldog Lane and we had a left turn lane that y'all were presented with a couple of years ago. VDOT turned it down because it wasn't enough economic development there. So they changed the criteria and we tried to punch it through again last year and it got turned down again. So now the standards change and every time a new commissioner comes in, they rename. I can remember when the enhancement grant was T21 grant, ICE grant. So they change it depending on who's in office. But the standards have changed again. And now VDOT is recommending that we look at Bulldog Lane and Fincastle. Are you ready for a roundabout? And I'm not saying Tazewell's ready for it, but
I would love that.
now to also improve that, to improve the chances for it qualifying, and by the way, that's 100% grant money, there's no local matches other than your federal dollars that you pay. But to also add some strength to it, they want to add a sidewalk that'll go down in front of the cave all the way to Bidwell.
I think that would be great.
And also do some upgrades at the intersection of Fincastle and Bidwell. So it's kind of 3 different areas. And again, we are struggling to find projects in town that fit Smart Scale. So, and it's because, I hate to say it, but it's the truth, because there's not enough accidents. And, they've got programs where they can look at it.
Can I report every time I twist an ankle running down the sidewalk there? That'll help raise the
So you see
numbers.
step out in front of a car.
The way nobody stops at crosswalks here, that would be pretty easy.
So you don't have to vote on anything.
There you go.
I can tell you, I walked from Kid Tire to Brown Chiropractic the other day, and yeah, you can get hit real easy. Sidewalks there are not
So
great.
if you will recall, a number of years back, I know Glenn will recall, but we went through an extensive term with cancels with VDOT, trying to remove that VDOT locked in. Actually, I've got a folder on my desk that Susan and Robin put together, because I know it's coming up again, but of communication, resolutions, and at the time, I can remember standing where the pharmacy's at, with Comfort Inn, and about 5 owners comfort in, and we're looking at the VDOT lot, and they said we wanted that lot. So that started a ball rolling. And then we had some other individuals step up and want to try a hotel on Main Street, and it's been pretty interesting. So we took it off the table, and yeah, that's a great location right there. But VDOT has turned it down because there's not enough economy there. There's not enough businesses there to justify the upgrade. So if it had a Walmart sitting there at the intersection. So my response to VDOT was, well, how are we going to get businesses when the intersection is not conducive to heavy traffic? I said, so how do you want to view that? Well, right now, that's our program and it doesn't qualify. So, and we fought for that pretty hard. But yeah, the roundabout, I don't know if Southwest Virginia is ready for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's when I crashed.
Yeah. And I crashed out over here.
Yeah.
Any more questions on that?
Take care of the roundabout.
Thanks, Todd. So next is the VDOT STR paving primary extension.
Okay, so this project, VDOT did the paving, and I don't know why I added this to the agenda. We only have 2 routes that qualify. It will not be looked at for physical construction until 2025. One of those routes is unfortunately Fairground Road. And if you'll recall, Fairground Road is on the paving list for this year. And it's not going to happen because of W&L's load across the Commonwealth with interstate paving. So our paving that's scheduled, it should have been done months ago, is now in November.
Is the pavement plant closed?
Well, they'll stay open, but it's got to be 40 degrees and rising for a primary project. It's a VDOT administered project. So now I'm sitting back, we're paying for that out of tax dollars. And I look at the patches on Fairground Road, it looks like a checkerboard. And that's a $200,000 expense. Can I keep patching it and get it free in 2 years? So I'm gambling that. I'm be working with my staff, try to figure out that gamble, and obviously I'm going to come back with a recommendation. But I hate
Question for you, like the main hub where coming off 460 exit 1, there's a section,
bad.
real bad, right? Rather than just patching that section, can you hit that section?
That's actually the only section that's scheduled to be paved this year. So it's not the entire fairground route, it's just that section that was done about 7 years ago. And it actually blew up, and they actually had to come back and redo it, so, anyway.
What about Market Street out towards Cox and Cody?
That's on there too.
Still for this year?
Yeah, that's our 2.
That's our 2 this year. The other one was, fire department, and it's already done. But, yeah, both of those routes, W&L got them. And what I've done over the years is I've done away with bid bonds. Not bid bonds, but like payment bonds. And if they'll allow me to accept a one-time lump sum payment upon inspection, save some money. But I've also left out of the contracts a time gap for paving. You didn't used to have to do that. And the reason I left it out is because I knew that the Commonwealth was throwing money at paving this year. And if I'd have put a time gap in there, I would have lost W&L. And they're always leaving $60,000, $70,000 on the table. So I took it out, and this is the price I paid. No good deed goes unpunished. So we're in November. If I'd have had it in there, W&L probably would have backed out, but it would have cost us another $80,000. So I know the perception of the public is we're not doing it. We're patching a lot.
Any additional questions? Okay, so next, committee recommendation process.
Okay, we'll just let that bleed over into the next three that are on there.
Okay.
The IDA, you had a recommendation, for IDA members. You had a, oh, Susan.
Glenn King and Alicia Bales.
And we spoke about that earlier, and I need a vote of approval.
You need them individually, or can you do them?
You can do them both at the same time, that's fine. Just make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of Glenn King and Alicia Bells being added to the IEDA, stay so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, stay so by saying nay. All right, so you'll send the letters out to them, Todd?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The planning commission,
Gabrielle DeCoursey.
yeah, we had one, Gabrielle DeCoursey was spoke about, just need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adding Gabrielle DeCoursey to the planning commission, stay so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, stay so by saying nay. Okay, so she'll get her letter. And next, historical review.
Historical review board.
Doug Sheets.
Doug Sheets. Okay, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adding Doug Sheets to the historic review board, stay so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, stay so by saying nay. Okay, so we got through that pretty easily. Okay, Ms. Reeves, go give us an update on the community litter pickup day.
So we've arranged 3 dates for community cleanup days for litter. October 21st, October 28th, and November 4th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. each of those days. We'll do Fairground Road first, and then Riverside Drive on the 28th, and Fincastle Turnpike from the old Rainy Lot to 460 on the last Saturday.
So we've got hard hats, we've got pickup sticks, police department ready, blue lights, orange lights, we'll all be out there. It's an opportunity for community to get involved, show some community pride, plus we'll have a lot of public works employees out there, and local government dollars to work, so.
I wish I could make my pre-team participate, but I see the 18 and older.
Any questions?
We'll advertise, I know she's probably gotten out there.
Yeah, I've seen it on Facebook.
Yeah, so we'll keep
Down the website. All right, so next, renew the cafeteria plan and resolution. Is there a resolution in here?
I think this is something that's voted on annually. It's just the approval for the cafeteria plan for the tax.
For the employees.
Yeah, you have to do this every year, even though it's gonna happen anyway, they make you vote on it if you're not gonna have a cafeteria plan. But anyway.
Sorry, I might have to read it.
No, you just moved it.
Is that it? No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
You want a paper copy?
I got it.
Okay.
So it's time.
It probably helps to have the record.
So, any discussion? All in favor of approval of the resolution, stay so by saying aye.
Does he have to read it?
Oh, yeah, I did. We gotta approve the plan first, right?
Yeah, that was for the plan.
Yeah, so all in favor of approving the plan, stay so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, stay so by saying nay.
Okay, we move on to the next one on the agenda.
Okay, resolution of the Town of Tazewell Council members for the adoption of the Town of Tazewell cafeteria plan. On this date, the Town of Tazewell Council members did meet to discuss the implementation of the Town of Tazewell Flexible Benefits Plan to be effective July 1st, 2023. Let it be known the following resolutions were duly adopted by Town of Tazewell Council members and that such resolutions have not been modified or rescinded as the date hereof. Whereas that the form of cafeteria plan is authorized under Section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, presented to this meeting is hereby adopted and approval that the proper officers of the employer are hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver the plan administrator one or more copies of the plan. And whereas that the plan year shall be for a period beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. And whereas that the employer shall continue or contribute to the plan amount sufficient to meet its obligations under the cafeteria plan in accordance with the terms of the plan document and shall notify the plan administrator to which period said contributions shall be applied. And whereas that the proper officers of the employer shall act as soon as possible to notify employees of the adoption of the cafeteria plan by delivering to each employee a copy of the summary plan description presented to this meeting, which form is hereby approved. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Michael F. Hoops, on behalf of the town council certifies that attached hereto as exhibits A and B respectively are true copies of the plan document and summary plan description for the town of Tazewell's flexible benefits plan approved and adopted in the foregoing resolutions. Be it further resolved that I certify and attest that the above resolutions were made with the consent of the full town council, each of whom were in attendance on this date. Adopted on this day, 17 October 2023. So can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, state so by saying nay. All right, so that's approved. So next on the agenda is to approve a special exemption permit for an Airbnb located at 138 Caroline Avenue, North Tazewell, Virginia. We need a vote to approve what we have in the joint public hearing.
Yeah, we have the joint public hearing.
So we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, state so by saying nay. All right, so special exemption permit approved. Next on the agenda is to set a public hearing for request to partially close the Orchard Street alley for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 7:15 p.m.
You notice in your packet on page 189, there's a map. Orchard Street right-of-way comes due west and then turns and goes north towards the Horseman's Club property. The Wilsons own both sides of that pink area. We're going to retain the Orchard Street to the lower parcel, but just sell them the pink area. So we'll retain a utility easement to the pink area in case the Horseman Club ever wants to upgrade or do anything up there. But the land will belong to the Wilsons.
Or for any future property owners.
Okay.
Notice the pink area does not come down into the straight right of way where Orchard Street is now.
Right.
So we'll keep won't be landlocking that parcel to the left. Of course, we'll have to set a public hearing. I'll notify all the Horseman's Club and probably the two parcels below the road there. It's the only people I have to notify.
Okay, so I need a motion to set the public hearing. If there's no questions for Chris?
So
Any discussion? All in favor of setting a public hearing for request partially closed Orchard Street alley for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 7:15 p.m. State so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, state so by saying nay. Okay, so we'll get that set for next month. So next, Leanne's going to give us a update on event ROI discussion.
There has been some discussion before, when we close down the streets on Main Street, does it help our businesses? Does it drive more people into those businesses? So I did just a small survey, and this was to our restaurants that are just Main Street, so it's not townwide, just focused on Main Street. I was able to get responses from 5 businesses. The first question I asked was, what's their favorite event that we do, where we close down the street? So the answers I got were Main Street Moments, the Prom, Oktoberfest, and Oktoberfest. Every business but one seen an increase in their revenues from an average weekend to the weekend of Oktoberfest. And I just chose that weekend because it was the most recent and they would have that data. But on an average for, the collective all, there was $5,300 more in sales for that one weekend of Oktoberfest.
That was average.
Yeah, for all combined, average, $5,300 more in sales on Main Street at those 5 restaurants that responded.
That's a gross revenue. It's definitely not.
You don't have Main Street roads,
I do not.
but that's also gross revenue, which meals tax for us.
Yeah. So, what did you ask her?
If you have Main Street roads.
Oh, okay. So, and there's been a request recently, which we should have, and we don't have a method of really measuring that. So all we can do is rely on cooperation from business owners to try to calculate that. You've also got in your packet each month, it may be a little dated, we may be a little behind, but you've got an event cost. So you can actually look at that.
So that's in the packet?
It's in every packet.
It's on the start.
Yeah. It's in there every month for each event.
It's updated through September. We don't have Oktoberfest.
Do we have an estimated turnout for Oktoberfest?
Not yet. I talked to, Keisha today. I'm sorry, yeah, I talked to Keisha today, and she's actually going to be on the agenda in November to come and speak about it, but she said it's a pretty good turnout, pretty good numbers, so. She didn't mention any specific numbers, she said it's positive.
I talked to some of the businesses when I was there, and they said that because it was a cold night, the night of Oktoberfest, the businesses actually did more because people were freezing. Well, it was cold outside, so people wanted to come inside and eat.
Sure.
As opposed to staying outside and listening to the bands and stuff. So they said more so this Oktoberfest, they were even more busy. So.
I know that one of the businesses, one of the restaurants on Main Street actually ran out of food and beer.
I heard that.
Am I allowed to speak really fast?
I'm sorry?
May I speak really fast?
Go ahead.
I was going to say something that we're trying to do with Tazewell today is we have a promotion committee where we gather the business owners, and we're hoping to have more events in 2024 where we don't close the street. We want to collaborate with them and help them shape, things that fit their space, to where then hopefully we're cutting down on costs of the town. So just know that that's something that we've taken from feedback from you guys, and we're slowly implementing the more we have involved committees.
We appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Our town guys appreciate that.
I got one more thing I'd like to add. I won't sleep tonight if I don't get it out. I just want to note that what sets us apart from other communities that are pursuing a sports complex, because I'm sure you've all seen the news releases of Mercer County, and now Bluefield is looking at doing some planning for a sports complex. We've already done the planning. We've already done the feasibility study. We have the engineering report. We don't have to apply for funding for a planning grant. This Arise grant that I was talking about, there's a planning grant with that too, but we don't have to go for that. We can go straight for implementation. That sets us apart. We are so far ahead of the game. That coupled with the unwavering, steadfast support of the council and having an agreement and a contract in place is going to just put us that much farther ahead than other communities. I feel like we're in a little bit of a race and competition now, and it's a good thing because obviously these other towns have seen the benefit, they've seen the impact that this will have, and they want to get on it, and we all know that they're a little bit, positioned financially better than us sometimes, and I like being the underdog, but I just want to flag that is what sets us apart from these other communities that are going after the same projects.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do you have to have a signed, sealed, delivered contract, or just that know that the council is unanimously behind a contract that has been presented?
We really should have a contract. Like I said, it's like saying, well, I promise. And we have the resolutions that we attach to all of those, but we'll just go a long way if we have a signed agreement with the developer. Because like I said, it doesn't make sense for us to build a sports complex, right? That's not what we're doing, we're building an industry.
Right.
Building a sports complex, you bring an industry in. We need to show that we have a developer who is in agreement and on board and under contract to see that through and make it happen.
Call John.
Yeah.
Tell him to get it over.
So, next under new business miscellaneous, I didn't see anything.
I got one thing.
Go ahead.
This young lady sits beside me, she got one more meeting. 33 years.
We're gonna make it hard.
You're not coming to the December meeting?
Ever.
You're not gonna come to the December meeting?
Not even as a consensus.
So I would encourage her every time you see her, knock her books out of her hand, trip or something. But yeah, one more meeting. By the way, I think it's like 33 years, but in local government, it's like 60. Brutal, ain't it, Jonathan? And it's not a cakewalk.
And Susan has made it wonderful to be able to
Absolutely.
step in my position. She's made it so easy.
Good.
You're leaving us in capable hands, but we'll miss you for sure.
Thank you.
It's Ben, do we have anybody signed in that didn't speak? No. Good to go. All right, so next is council member comments.
I do have one comment I'd like to make, and this kind of goes back to a couple of different things we've talked about tonight. And that's the community litter pickup day and the coyote discussion. And that's part of it is a lot of what brings predators into town, and bears, we talked about bears too in the last meeting, is a lot of people aren't following the rules on putting their trash out. Trash, if I'm not mistaken, Todd, the ordinance says that to get your trash picking up, it's supposed to be in a can with a lid on it.
Correct.
Tied bags, in a can with a lid on it. And I leave for work fairly early in the morning, and I see trash bags that have been laid out the night before on the side of the road. And it's just like you're asking for stray cats, which stray cats lead to, and raccoons lead to coyotes and bears. And I mean, I've seen, I believe it was a week after that, and these folks actually had their trash in a can, and a bear, you know, took their trash across the hill. But, you know, I've seen countless trash bags just laid out the night before and strewed all across everywhere. And just, I hope and encourage everybody to put your trash out the way it's supposed to be put out.
Absolutely. Yeah, we cause our own problems most of the time. When it comes to those bears, this happens every year. You can ask the mayor. I know for a while the mayor was borrowing a camera of mine, but it's every year at the same time. And it's because of the cubs. And the mom was trying to feed the cubs, but they'll eventually take off, and when the acorns start falling, they'll fade off. But every year about this time, we have issues with that. And by the way, the Commonwealth at this point does not look at urban archery for bear. It's only deer. It's allowable out there. So I know some localities recently may have voted on it, but let them go ahead.
I don't think I would want to shoot a bear with an arrow.
Oh, I've got a pile.
All right, any other council member comments? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Any discussion? All in favor of adjourn, signify by saying aye. All opposed, signify by saying aye.